and
Yeah, sounds
then we
good.
can get
And
this
for
thing
everyone,
kicked off.
yeah, as always, for everyone in chat, we are recording this meeting. We will make the recording available to all you guys, and then we have a little surprise announcement at the end as well. Morning, Jason. All right, camera's off, and Patrick, I'll let you kick it off whenever you think is good.
Awesome. We think should we give it to 102, 103? Yeah, I'm gonna wait a little longer. So true, Jason. I really do got to give time to the stragglers. I feel like I show up to a webinar like 2 minutes late, so I'm just trying to sympathize for future me. It's like good karma. All right, that's good enough. Enough waiting. I want to get this thing kicked off. All right. Welcome everybody. Very pumped for this one. As I'm sure most of you know, or at least some of you know who've been using the product a good amount, Clay has recently released an integration with HeyReach. In my opinion, the best, if not one of the best LinkedIn outreach tools out there. My agency uses it for all of our clients when we're doing LinkedIn outreach. It's great. I mean, I can't say enough about it. I'm sure we'll talk more about the tool itself throughout this webinar, but we wanted to talk about obviously LinkedIn outreach as a whole, go through a clay flow that involves HeyReach that I think is pretty effective and one I honestly plan on running for a lot of my clients. And just talking about kind of how LinkedIn outreach is going to be affecting the go-to-market landscape as a whole. So I'm joined with Ilja and Nikola, two of the, I believe, are both of you founders of HeyReach? I think so, right? I know
I'm
you.
the co-founder. I'm the co-founder and CEO, and Ilya is our pretty much first employee. He joined when we were starting the company. He's the revenue guy. He's the brain behind the GTM and all of those things. So yeah, I feel like he's a co-founder of the team.
Yeah, we'll say founding team at the very least. But
Exactly.
anyway, two of the absolute geniuses behind the tool. And yeah, I'll leave it off to you guys to introduce yourself, introduce the tool itself, and then we can kind of go into our discussion about LinkedIn and go to market. And then we can kind of walk through the flow itself if that works with you.
Sure, sure. Awesome. Thank you very much, Patrick. So hi, everyone. I'm Nikola or Nick, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of HeyReach. Ilya, take the spotlight.
Yeah, guys, hi. I can see so many familiar faces on this chat. Welcome, everyone. Don't even try, for the rest of you, don't even try to pronounce my first and last name. Your desk might start floating. So it's all good. Glad to be here.
Yeah. And what's HeyReach? HeyReach is LinkedIn automation tool that's specifically designed for lead gen agencies and for sales teams. Basically, we are the first tool on the market that's designed for scalability, for multiple LinkedIn senders put on one outreach sequence, unified inbox to aggregate all of the conversations, and so on. The idea behind HeyReach was the thing like we want to scale LinkedIn outreach the same way we are able to scale email outreach. So pretty much the whole concept of how we are utilizing and how we are going forward with the tool revolves around that idea. And we decided to niche down specifically to the vertical of lead gen agencies and sales teams. So pretty much that's HeyReach. Later down the road, you can see some examples. You can see our point of view regarding LinkedIn and all in all GTM. And Patrick will show you the workflow of how you can utilize Clay and HeyReach at the same time.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very pumped to walk you guys through that. I think it's an exciting one. But I have a couple questions just revolving around LinkedIn outreach as a whole. I feel like it's important to establish before we get into this flow the importance of LinkedIn outreach and kind of what its future is in outbound. So I think there's two elements to this. Obviously, I think most people understand the importance of LinkedIn outreach. Everybody's on LinkedIn. Like pretty much anybody who's in your ICP is likely on there if you have an ICP within like a matured industry. And you're not reaching out to like, I don't know, hermits. And also, of course, with LinkedIn, the conversion rates are significantly higher generally than they are with email. For most people, the throttle there is the fact that email usually you're able to send at a higher scale. Of course, HeyReach aims to solve that. But my main question for both of you is what you think the kind of future of LinkedIn outreach is going to look like. There's obviously so many elements to it; it's constantly changing, and of course, LinkedIn always has its limitations as to how many email or messages they want to send out per account. So I don't know. It's kind of an open-ended question, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on like how you think the entire scope is going to move. long term?
Sure. I can start. Ilya can add stuff. So yeah, in my opinion, LinkedIn will definitely become a must for every outreach. Like it's gonna become like a must channel for executing outreach because of multiple factors. Like the email is becoming harder and harder. There are problems with deliverability and stuff like that. And soon this type of diversification will be definitely needed. The other thing is like, yeah, the response rates and the acceptance rates are significantly higher on LinkedIn. So some of the data we have, maybe I'm jumping into Ilya's topic, but I wanted to show it from like 7 million, I think, connection requests that we have sent all in all. The average acceptance rate, this means from all of the 7,000 active LinkedIn accounts we have on the platform, are 24.4 average acceptance rate. And the reply rate is 19%, which is also something, significantly higher when you compare it to the email average response rate, which is below 1%. And in my opinion, slowly the diversification of these channels, like just running email outreach wouldn't be enough. There'll be, a need for diversifying it on LinkedIn. And I think that's pretty much where LinkedIn stands as a GTM channel in the whole outbound. But I think Ilya has some other ideas.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm going to just take a step back over here, just explaining on a more high-end view when it comes to comparing the channels between themselves. It's oftentimes when we see our email marketing agencies like killing it with instant and smart lead and their email campaigns, but they're not doing so great on LinkedIn. Reason being is that there are a couple of principles that you have to respect when you're doing or when you're adopting a new channel. Like the future of outbound, who knows? Like it will probably be something new, but definitely it will be multi-channel. Like if there is no opportunity that it will stick to one channel, you guys see it already, right? Email is not performing as it used to. It's not that it's not working, but it's declining to some extent. So which means that you have to diversify the portfolio between the channels being reached for the prospects, for your clients, and for yourself. But if you compare the three channels, and I usually compare like cold callings, emails, and LinkedIn. If you compare all of those three, LinkedIn is the slowest one. Why is that? Because people are constantly on their phone and daily, maybe hourly users of their email inbox, but on LinkedIn, they are weekly active users. Which means that if you start a LinkedIn campaign today, you have to set your expectations right between when you send out that connection request or a message and when it will be read from the prospect. So take your time. This is what I'm trying to say. Take your time, be patient with this channel, because if you try to be too pushy, too salesy, to slap pitching throughout the messages, you will fail. Like it doesn't work that way. The only way that it works is just respect the platform as it is. So it's a social platform which has a communication channel attached to it compared to email or phone, which is a communication channel isolated. So respect the platform, do all the profile engagements that you can, and from that point on, you will probably see a success in terms of high response rate, high acceptance rate, and future remarketing campaigns. So,
awesome. Yeah, that's I think those are some really solid best practices for sure. And last question I'll have before we can kind of go into the workflow and show actually how this integration works, because I think that'll spark a lot of questions that you guys can then answer. But like, what are some of the upcoming features you guys have with the tool that you're the most excited about? Obviously, the most recent one, I guess you could say this is a feature, is the integration with Clay, which I think obviously allows for pretty high scale campaigns, and you'll see that in a second. But is there anything else that you think is, going to be pretty exciting, or anything you could even disclose? I don't even know if you even want to say that yet. I don't want to, leak any confidential information.
Right. So the only thing I can say at this point is we are gonna double down significantly on the integrations. Like there are gonna be more and more integrations, especially with the most used sales tools out there. Like the famous ones RBTB, 3DeFi, Smart Lead, pretty much everything that you guys are using every day in your outbound stack. Another feature that I can announce is the workspace, because like we are mainly targeting the lead gen agency niche, and having workspaces and workspace management and all of those things is going to be one of the upcoming features. For the other things, I'm not allowed to disclose them publicly, but stay tuned. We are going to release some wild things for sure.
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, I don't want to push it out of you by any means. Yeah, let's keep it a surprise. I agree. I saw that in the chat. She's like, I love surprises. I totally agree. Well, anyway, awesome. I will go ahead and start walking through the flow that I created for this. As a quick disclaimer before I share my screen, I decided for this one, I would make it a little like entertaining / fun by combining a few different pieces of tech that I like with HeyReach to kind of show you the power of the tool. And so, yeah, without further ado, I'll just kind of go into and explain to you my thinking for this flow. You can see my screen, right, Nikola? We're good? Okay, huge. All right. So you can, as you can see right here, I'm on Clay's website on their case studies section. So they have, and they should probably start publishing more. I actually just messaged Misty, the head of like the blog, to publish more of these because they have not nearly enough. But the point is, they have 4 case studies right now. And my thought here is most companies have pretty solid case studies, and they often reference those case studies as social proof in their outbound. But the problem is sometimes when you're referencing a case study, it's not even relevant to the person that you're reaching out to. Like if you have a great case study with Google and you're reaching out to like a car mechanic, it's probably not going to be that relevant, right? So my thought was, why don't we find the lookalikes of all of our case study companies and then reach out to the lookalikes of the case study company, because it would be like hyper relevant. And you know that when you're referencing that specific case study in the outbound, it will be relevant to them. And you can pretty much just frame the entire outbound message as like, hey, like I saw that you have X in common with my case study company. I actually just succeeded for them super heavily, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one I plan on implementing, I think, for a lot of our clients now that it's possible to do. Ocean's lookalike finder, in my opinion, is now good enough to do that. And so, yeah, I'll quickly walk you through the copy here. Actually, I don't even, hold on. I need to share my screen again. Annoying. There we go. So it's very basic copy. You can see there's just a ton of variables here. It's pretty much just saying, hey, we wrapped up a project with this case study company where we did this and thought of you due to how relevant the case study is. We can apply a similar strategy to you. Any interest? The second one is just sending the blog, the actual like case study link, so they can read more about how we succeeded for that company. And the third thing is kind of just a breakup email. So very simple, or not emails, apologies, like LinkedIn messages. And the reason these are so short is because they're LinkedIn messages, by the way. Like you'll see this is significantly shorter than a normal cold email would be. And that's for good reason, because like when you're getting a LinkedIn message, you can immediately tell if it's templatized or just being blasted to everybody when they send you an essay, right? So I wanted to make sure that all these messages were short. So you'll see that being the case for pretty much any of the LinkedIn campaigns I run. But anyway, I will now show you kind of how this entire process works. So back to the case studies page. I pretty much just I just got these 4 case study companies. So Sendoso, First Round, Service Bell, Chat Metrics. I went to ocean.io. I don't know if you guys have used this tool, but their lookalike finder is incredible, genuinely. And what you can do is you can just type in a given company. And so you could even do something like, I'll do Sendoso for this. And it'll load. You can click on it and it will find you. Actually, hold on. There we go. And if my Wi-Fi works at all, you'll see it finds all the lookalike companies for that given business, right? And there are a ton of them, 16,000. But obviously, there's just no way on earth there are 16,000 companies that are actually that similar to Sendoso, right? So they have this lookalike score that can tell you how similar they are to your actual company. So I do 2 things. The first thing is I filter it to actually fit my ICP. And so there's a million different things you can filter by, but I'm pretty sure for this, I put like the location being the United States, and then I threw in like a few like company size things, and you'll see it narrows down pretty quickly. I don't know why that errored, but whatever. The point being, once you apply those filters, I usually save the first like 100 to 200 companies for each lookalike search. Because again, there's 16,000. There's no way most of them actually, are similar. But the lookalike score is a good way to gauge that. I pretty much did that for all 4 companies, threw them into a Clay table, and you can see that right here. So there was like around 800 companies, 200 for each lookalike one. I have the company name right here, and I have the lookalike company right here. From there, all I had to do was find their LinkedIn, which is very simple in Clay. So I used a quick Google search integration to just find the company's LinkedIn, aggregated it right into this final LinkedIn column. From there, because Clay only has 4 case studies, so it was actually like a very low credit Clay table. All I had to do was enrich the company to get their domain, and then I fed into Claygent. Actually, no, I didn't even have to do that. I found the company's domain, and then using a formula in Clay, I just matched the company's name, like the lookalike company's name, to the blog post about that company, right? So like Chat Metrics is this one, Service Bell matches to this case study. You get the point. From there, one moment, We wrote a quick first line. So this is just another formula where I just literally, based on the case study link that we found, wrote a first line. So this one says we recently wrapped up a project with Chat Metrics where we fully replaced a chunk of their SDR team with Clay. And if you go down to, let's say the next one, we recently wrapped up a project with First Round Capital where we enriched more than 200K contacts, right? So like depending on the link that we had for the case study, I used the formula once again, exact same logic as the last thing I showed you, but just with a new sentence. From there, I'm trying not to like go super deep because it's not mega important, but also show you what this flow does before I go to the HeyReach thing. But from there, I normalize the company name to make it sound like you actually will be reading it in an email. And it's not like, you're not saying like Apple Inc. or something when you're reaching out to somebody. Exact same logic for a second line. So just wrote a second line for this email. Or not email, sorry, LinkedIn message. I always am used to saying email because that's what I used to do so much. But anyway, and then I use Claygent finally to write a transition line. So this is interesting. For those who don't know what Claygent is, it is essentially like an AI web scraper. You can have it go visit websites and find information on companies, extract that information and send it back to you. And it can do really cool stuff. Like, I don't know if you guys have played with ChatGPT, like like the 4.0 or like I think it's like 4, like the letter O. But it's incredibly powerful, right? So I pretty much just had it go visit the prospect's website, then visit Chatmetrics website in this case, or whatever the lookalike company is that we're writing the case study on, find a fundamental similarity between the two companies' business operations, and then write a sentence based on that. And it actually did it like really well. This is not a complex prompt, as you can see, but you can see when I click on these, like considering you guys provide live chat and other customer support services, we can probably replicate the process for similar results. Chatmetrics, if you don't know, does like live chat services, I believe. So incredible like output for that. I would actually imagine that was written by a real person. Anyway, after that, all I had to do was find people who work for those companies, get all those variables, and then here is the cool part. So I have all of my personalization variables for this campaign. I have all the people that work for those companies. And the coolest part, in my opinion, especially for HeyReach, is that you don't have to find their emails, which is so elite. Like, I don't know how to, like, there are 6,000 people in this table, right? When I'm running an email waterfall in Clay, which for those who don't know, you have to click add enrichment, type in work email, and click on this. And it spends approximately 3 credits per email, right? So if I was to run that, it would spend 18,000 credits to find all of their emails. And you can lessen that by buying API keys, but let's just say you don't. That's spending like $350 to $400 just on getting emails. When you're using HeyReach, you don't have to do that at all because you just need their LinkedIn profile, which Clay gives you for free. And so anyway, that was awesome. Once I wanted to add all of these to my campaign, which I'll show you in just a second in HeyReach, all I have to do is go to like add enrichment, type in HeyReach, add lead to campaign. And all I did for like these 10 test people was sync all the variables with like first name, last name, LinkedIn profile. Then you can add custom fields right here. So these are like kind of the fancier variables that I was adding to my LinkedIn outreach. And then I just ran it. And so you can see here, this is my HeyReach flow. If I could do it again, I would actually probably like posts and view profiles after sending a connection request. But, hindsight's 2020, I guess. But pretty much all it's doing is there's a bunch of different functions you can do in HeyReach, but some of my favorites are viewing their profile because it's kind of like a subtle way of showing that, you're paying them attention, engaging with their posts. And the cool thing is if you edit this, you can actually do any sort of, it doesn't have to be a like, it can be like the little like light bulb insightful thing on their LinkedIn post. It can be like any reaction. Send them a connection request. If they don't accept, I just ended it after 5 days. And if they do accept it, I send them the sequence of messaging. And you can see here, I just inputted that copy of mine. And we have our variables right here. You can also do a fallback message. So in the case that I, for some reason, didn't have a personalization for one of these, you can throw in a fallback message so you don't send blank variables, which is also so elite because I'm sure anybody who's run enough email campaigns knows how annoying it is to send like, hey, blank comma, like instead of somebody's first name, right? Very annoying. And then, yeah, it's pretty much just running a campaign every 2 days. I'm sending them a new message. And I think using this, it's combining two pretty high, I'd say high conversion strategies. The first one being finding lookalikes for already successful clients, because you can just reference that you already killed it for somebody that's very similar to them. Like, why wouldn't they work with you? Like, I recently got on a call with a company for my own agency who literally had the exact same value prop and was a direct competitor with somebody I already worked with and already generated like millions of dollars in pipeline with. So I'm just like, I will, like, this is a no-brainer, right? So, and it was a no-brainer for them too. So the point being, it combines that with LinkedIn outreach, which is already super high conversion. So in my opinion, pretty solid flow. Obviously open to answering any questions, but that's a general rundown of using HeyReach and Ocean. Two tools that I'm super pumped about. So that was a lot of rambling. But if you guys have any questions, obviously open to them. Oh, somebody already asked one. Okay, cool. How would you go about running a campaign where you're going to send them through an email funnel first, and when it's complete, adding them to a lookalike campaign in HeyReach? Oh, so Smart Lead, which you said you use, is actually like the perfect situation for doing this. So you can do a lookup contact in Smart Lead in Clay. So if you wanted to add a contact to Smart Lead first, it can send an entire sequence. And once that's done, you can do a lookup to make sure that it's actually completed, and then add them to a HeyReach sequence immediately after. And I would definitely recommend, I mean, for two of our clients, we actually do that exact same thing pretty much. Like, we send them an email flow, and if that doesn't work, we just go to LinkedIn, because they were kind of.
So you would just do it in like the run settings. Sorry, this is Dominic. I asked the question. So you would do it in like the run settings for HeyReach, like only run if this result has come back from the lookup lead and Smart Lead where it's finished.
That's correct. Yeah, I would do a conditional run to be like, if this lookup says it's completed, then run it in HeyReach. Otherwise, just don't add it. And yeah, I would run it that way.
Patrick, if I may, well, recently we also saw like, it's not just about spending the emails, and let's say you got the right email. Let's say you got the most valid email out there, and then you send them to your email campaign, and the result of it is like out of office. So what are you doing with that? You spend so many credits to enrich just one profile that like it's the right output, but the response that you are getting is not the outcome that you want. So what we've did essentially, and after this, we will always just share use cases. And this case was obviously instantly, but can be done with Smart Lead as well. Every time I get out of office, I just point out a webhook that sends data to a LinkedIn campaign. And the message there goes, listen, I know that we have a great fit over there. I try to reach you over an email, but obviously you're out of office right now. So, I mean, care to connect on LinkedIn? Like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not really pushing into anything. I just want to have my ICP connected with me on the platform on which they will probably respond either way. Right. So like combining both platforms is LinkedIn should not be just an isolated campaign that you are running. It's a great use case, obviously, if the audience is pretty much active, but you should definitely combine that with your email campaign. Just because you have very much out of offices, very much like wrong person, or maybe not responsive ones. So nevertheless, if you didn't get a response, but then the open rate is like 70%, would you leave them alone? Or would you hit them up, like add a personalization to your outbound and then show up a face behind the offer that was sent in the first place in the email inbox? So there are varieties of use cases. Really.
Yeah, you could get pretty fancy with it. Like, if somebody responds to your Smart Lead campaign, you can immediately connect with them on LinkedIn and send them like a message in HeyReach or something like that. So
the one I hate the most, to be honest, it's are the ones who say I'm interested, but they never respond back. Right. And like, I'm interested, let's set up a call. Like, who doesn't hate that, right? You say like, okay, this is perfect.
You get a positive response.
And then like they're ghosting you for no reason whatsoever. Like,
exactly.
I'm bugged out.
Yeah, so I mean, LinkedIn's a great way to follow up, obviously increase conversion further down the funnel as well. Because positive responses where they don't follow up afterwards are tragic. Everyone knows.
Yeah, but then again, like their inboxes are being hit so often that it's like inbox saturation was already created over there. So they're receiving so many emails. But when you show up on LinkedIn with a personal image, like nothing fancy, but a decent looking LinkedIn profile, people are not respected, right? Because people will say, okay, so I'm talking to a real person who knows pretty much a lot about me just because they have my LinkedIn profile. So they tend to be more assertive when it comes to when they're shooting out the responses. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
No, totally. All right, sweet. Well, I seem to have a good amount of messages, so I'll try to respond to them and obviously pass them off to the HeyReach team if they're more HeyReach-esque questions, because I am by no means the LinkedIn automation expert here. So if we have URLs of our URLs of our target market, 3 million people in a CSV. Could we add them to Clay, use Clayagent to develop messages, and import the custom message back into HeyReach? Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what you would use that for. So like, throw them into Clay. You could have Clayagent do research, and then maybe the actual OpenAI integration. Like they have pretty much 2 OpenAI integrations: Clayagent, which does research, and then like ChatGPT, which will do any of the writing. So I would probably have ChatGPT write maybe like a first line or a custom snippet, and then Clayagent doing the research to kind of back that snippet. And yeah, you can send it straight to HeyReach after that. You send a lot of connection requests per week. So yeah, that would probably be one to use. I read this one earlier. It's a longer one, but in short, they're pretty much just saying the follow-up messages should be handled manually to get better closure. I understand that to an extent. I think it depends on the level of scale that you're operating at, though. Like if you have an SDR team that can handle follow-ups manually, totally do it. But if you're running campaigns, maybe you're just like a one-person sales team, or you're getting a lot of responses, or your follow-ups are not actually to actual responses, but just being like, hey, saw that you clicked on this link, or hey, like saw that you responded out of office, could be worth doing some follow-ups automatically. And Clay's actually, if you use it correctly, incredibly good at automating personalization at scale. It's not always going to be like, I'm sure you can pick out nuances of a person's LinkedIn profile that an AI couldn't, but generally it's quite good. But so I'd say that's true to an extent. If you have the resources to do it, totally do it. But if not, I think automation is a good option. Then somebody asked, can you walk through the Clayagent customization to generate meaningful copy for LinkedIn? Are you limiting what the Clayagent grabs or using secondary AI to converting the raw scrape data into a defined sentence? So I will show you the prompt that I use for Clayagent. Disclaimer though, I would probably refine it a little bit more than what I did in hindsight. Here it is, right here. I'm telling Clayagent, one moment, I need to go to the other table. I'm pretty much telling Clayagent, like, this is the sentence you have to write. I'm not giving it much freedom. I'm pretty much just saying, go do research on these companies and then complete this sentence, if that makes sense. So just saying, considering similarity, I think we could probably replicate this process, and similarity should reference the similarity, output the sentence, nothing else, right? So if you wanted to refine what this similarity variable actually meant, I would probably just give it more background on exactly what you're scraping. You can see that this one is more fundamental. Like I'm actually just finding like a core similarity between the two businesses. And I honestly trusted the AI to do a good enough job for me not to have to ask it any or give it any more data, right? Like, and you can see it did quite well, like with the one chat desk, like it's such a direct lookalike. It says outsourced customer support services. That's exactly what Chat Metrics does essentially, right? It's like a chat bot. So like it's doing a good enough job to me. I looked at the results and I was like, this works. If it doesn't look good enough, just tweak it. So yeah, that's kind of how I would say there. Let's see.
Patrick, if I may, I mean, because there will be people just starting off with LinkedIn and all of that, I would like just to give my best practices when doing so, because obviously there are certain sets and certain rules. So I'm going to share my screen now. So yeah, let me know if you guys can see it. All good? Cool. I'm just showing you a very simple flow over here. And the flow itself, like it's everything that LinkedIn stands for, right? So before you pop a connection request, you are applying 2 touch points against the prospect's profile. The first one is obviously follow, and the second one is liking a post. And why are you doing that? You're just doing that for the notification purposes. Trust me, like they will never remember the name or the profile image, but they will like, it will look familiar when they're making a decision whether or not to accept a connection request. Now, 2 touch points before a connection request usually increases the acceptance rate, and it gets around 45% based on everything that we've seen. Second thing that I want to draw your attention is don't send personalized connection requests unless you are using the sales navigator. With the recent LinkedIn limitation, I guess that LinkedIn became greedy when it comes to how people can use their platform when it comes to sending connection requests. So with the recent limitation, free LinkedIn accounts cannot send a personalized connection requests. That they are limited to 10. So just keep the connection request blank. Either way, the acceptance rate is higher on a blank one, so don't really have to force it into it. And then this is also something that a lot of people are just not taking into consideration. If your connection request is accepted, but there is no response to your messages, that doesn't mean that you are completely out of the picture. Why is that? Because you're not using a burner email. You're using your personal LinkedIn account, your client's LinkedIn account, like whoever it is. So still, it's a good thing to have them in your first-degree connections for future remarketing purposes. Left-hand side, let me give you just an incentive. So average acceptance time on a connection request on LinkedIn is 2.5 days. So anything that you do against the prospect's profile, before that, it will become a bundle. So they will receive bundle notifications the next time they will log in into the LinkedIn platform. Leave a 5-day buffer time before you continue with profile engagement. So liking posts, viewing profiles, and my least favorite ones, you can even include emails. Now, on the email side, I know that there are a lot of people who want to say, okay, I don't care if I get connected or not, I just want to shoot my message. Emails typically get around 1.8 to 2% response rate. Reason being is that people hate emails. Like people like LinkedIn, when they oppose that you can message anyone if you pay them a certain amount of money, people started just neglecting that and just saying, okay, so this is not working. Which is why if you have ever run email campaigns, it's not up to you. It's just how the platform works. So avoid the emails that are not that big of a deal. Trust me on this, like these messages over here, layered with a hyper personalization through a clay table will guarantee results. Right. So don't be too fast about it. Take your time. Like you can see, I already have like 3 days in between, and 1 hour after they accept it, I pop them with a question or just make a bridge between why is this relevant and where is this conversation heading, right? Because you might end up chatting with a lot of people, but you don't want to just like, we are not there for the chats, we are there for the conversions, which is making perfect sense, right? So get them talking. Your goal, your agenda on LinkedIn for whoever you are doing this outreach is to get people talking on a specific subject, right? Get them talking, whether or not this is a problem for you right now. Based on that, you just need to nurture them within one inbox, like we offer that as a feature, and then like qualify who is worth continuing this conversation with. Aside from that, even if you start blast spamming like messages and all of that, obviously you can do it, but it's not the best practice. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I really agree with the sentiment that you shouldn't get greedy. Because I mean, when you think about it just from like your perspective, even everybody here, I'm sure, has a LinkedIn account pretty much. And I'm sure you get very annoying emails all the time. And so it's really just worth thinking, what sort of message would you want to receive, or something at least that you'd be interested in replying to? And also, what cadence of messages would be enticing to you? Like if somebody's reaching out to you every day, like, are you loving that? You know, like, is that something that you want? Probably not, but if maybe it's every 3 days or something, and they're thoughtful, like engaging messages that are asking you about something you care about, see, it's a lot more enticing, right? So,
Yeah,
I don't know. I always just think about myself,
At the end of the day, for you, it's campaigns, right? It's step 1, step 2, step 3. For them, it's just one inbox. So if you oversaturate that with messages, that inbox, the conversation between you and them will look like a blog post. And who will read a blog post within a chat box? Probably no one, right? And take care just to know that people will open up their LinkedIn inbox on their mobile phone. So with that, they have to scroll, and nobody's going to scroll these days. So be short, be sweet, everything like will fall to its place. Additionally, we've also seen a lot of agencies when they close a client, right? There is obviously the warm-up period of the email inboxes that are like in a downtime period where the client paid and they're getting anxious and stuff like that. So what we've discovered is that while you are in a downtime period, you already have a bunch of LinkedIn accounts for the client himself. Why don't you start your campaigns right away until the scalability makes sense to shoot it over an email? Right. So there should not be a buffer time. Obviously, there must be, just because of warm-up period of the inbox senders and stuff like that. But use their LinkedIn accounts to kick off the campaigns right away, and the results will come either way. So yeah,
totally, fully agree. All right, we've got a lot of questions, so I'm going to start kind of churning through these. If there's any that, of course, just pass it off to whoever I think is going to answer it best. In short, so somebody asked, when doing outbound on LinkedIn for a client, whose LinkedIn profiles are you typically using for connects and messages? I can answer this one because I run an agency that uses HeyReach. I usually work with mid-market to enterprise companies, so there's generally some sort of sales team or sales motion being run, and so a lot of the time we'll be using like the SDRs, BDRs, AEs accounts to run our outreach. Of course, the question then begs, like, you don't want to get those accounts banned. They're pretty integral to the job of the person that, you're helping automate, like from a high level. So it's just really important to throttle the amount of messages and requests that you're sending. HeyReach has options for each persona pretty much to like throttle the amount of messages and connection requests you're sending. So just be conservative. I always am very, very careful about, you know, like you never want to put never want to get the little slider and just blast it, right? Be like, send out 400 connect, like you're going to get banned, right? So just be smart about it.
If I may, Patrick, statistically speaking, CEO's account usually typically gets 55% acceptance rate, just because they're a CEO, founder, co-founder, regardless of the type of the enterprise itself. Salespeople typically get around 25% just because on their job title. So it's just plain human behavior, like it has nothing to do with the outbound campaigns, but just be considerate of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, ideally, the highest up person you can get who's linked to run campaign on, great. You know, but again, if you're like an agency working with enterprise clients, like as much as like one of our clients is VaynerX, like Gary V's company, I would love to use Gary V's LinkedIn for outreach, but he's probably not going to let me, unfortunately, even though that would be a 100% acceptance rate campaign. So anyway, I'm gonna keep going down. Beginner here. I'm only a HeyReach and Sales Navigator customer. What's the optimal tech stack for B2B outreach? Does it differ for enterprise? Can you quickly glance over what each software does? So this is a super long question to answer, so I'm not going to go all the way in it, but I'm going to give you the baseline. Like all you really need at the end of the day is a reliable lead source for your ICP. Clay for enrichment. It'll combine all the enrichment tools and personalization tools required to do that. And then a sequencing tool. For each channel, it depends on which one you want to do. LinkedIn, I'm obviously going to recommend HeyReach. La Growth Machine is pretty good for multi-channel as well as Lemlist. And then Smart Leads quite good, and as well as Instantly for email. And then of course you need email infrastructure. I would stick to Gmail and Microsoft accounts, and I'll stick with that because again, there's so much more that you can go into, but that's a baseline. Okay. Still going through and reading these, sorry. This is definitely a question for the HeyReach team, but like there's like one question, pretty much just being concerned about being banned from HeyReach. Like people use Phantom Buster a lot and their accounts will get banned, which is a common experience, I think, for anybody who's used Phantom Buster, like because I feel like we're kind of catching on. Like what is the, like, I don't know, what's your experience with getting banned? Like, what are the odds? Like, and how do you prevent it from happening? Right? Because obviously that's a big concern for anybody doing LinkedIn outreach, is getting their accounts banned. I'd say it's probably the top concern. At least it was for me when I was looking for a tool. So like, how do you mediate that?
Yeah. Let me jump in here. I just answered that question in the chat. So yeah, at the moment we have 7,000 LinkedIn accounts who are active and running at the platform. And so far we have never had a case where kind of like a real LinkedIn account is restricted or banned because they're automating and stuff like that. Well, HeyReach will never try to, you know, expand the limits of your LinkedIn outreach to those crazy levels that some of the tools out there are advertising. We are always going to stay within the LinkedIn guidelines. We'll always, you know, kind of like encourage you to send only, you know, 20, 30 connection requests per day. I'm using my own LinkedIn account in the whole outreach. Ilya is using his, and so on. My whole business is on LinkedIn. So I wouldn't risk it if it wasn't safe. For the people who are using avatars, that means, you know, rented LinkedIn accounts or whatever, LinkedIn may ask them to verify, you know, send ID and something. So if they don't have the ID, you know, pretty much that account is kind of like lost. But for real LinkedIn accounts and following the guidelines and being within the limits, we have never had a problem of getting a LinkedIn account banned.
Well, if I might just add, right, so everyone wants to scale up, right? Everyone wants to do better or bigger job on LinkedIn, but nobody wants to lose a LinkedIn account. So we knew that before we even started building out this platform. So trust me, we did some crazy tests in the background, like how can I get my account banned? Like the opposite of now today worlds, right? So basically what we've noticed is that LinkedIn cares about two things. They care whether or not you're trying to bypass their limits that they have imposed on their platform, and how frequently are you changing the location. We just take care of both of those. So just assign a static residential proxy for each account connected within our platform, so the login location doesn't change or doesn't fluctuate. And then we don't bypass the limits. If you see a great success on LinkedIn, just add more accounts. Like that's how you do it. Like how would you do an email? You will never do one email inbox. You will get more email inboxes and just spread out the outreach. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why people get banned on Phantom Buster, by the way, is because Phantom Buster doesn't have like this limit per se. Like you can, for example, download every follower you have from LinkedIn on Phantom Buster, and like there's usually a limit. Like if you're doing a download on LinkedIn, I know this isn't outreach based, but like the point is they ignore that. Like, so that's why you're getting banned, in short. somebody asked like how kind of like do you make the campaign in Clay and then find the campaign ID in HeyReach or vice versa? So I'll kind of give you a rundown of how this generally works. I write out the campaign copy first with all the personalizations that I want to create. So I know what those personalizations have to look like when I'm actually creating a sentence. From there, I build those personalizations out in Clay. So I make all of those variables. I make a column so all those variables are neatly in one place. Then I use the HeyReach integration to send all those variables to my campaign. And of course, all of my copy is in HeyReach. And so I'm making the campaign in HeyReach. I'm putting all the copy in there. Then I'm creating the variables in Clay and sending those variables to the copy in HeyReach, pretty much. Think about it like Mad Libs, like when they have those little fill in the blank situations. It's the same thing. Like I'm just sending over all my answers to the test software in short. So that's kind of how it works. Our HeyReach campaigns. Oh no, Nikola, you already answered that. Sorry. Shout out Nikola for answering a lot of these too. This is expediting a lot of these question answering situations. Let's see. What about sending links and messages? Yeah, what's your take on that, Ilya? Like, is sending links and messages usually something dangerous? Should you avoid it? What are your thoughts on that?
LinkedIn doesn't have spam filters. The only spam filter that might oppose that is when the prospect is seeing that message and reports it as unsafe, right? And that's the only spam filter. It's the self-moderated platform within the prospect or the receiver of the messages. Like LinkedIn doesn't have anything that says, here is a link, definitely ban this person. There is no such thing, right? So you're all good to send links, and long as the links are informational and they are leading to a legit site, obviously, right? So sending links, it's all good after you're being accepted. Just don't do it in the first message. Do it in the second or the third and use that as a collateral, like Patrick said. So this is what we've did for this specific client, which is very similar to you. Like, I don't know if this is a problem worth solving right now, but here is the use case. Here is the collateral. Here is the video. Here is whatever it is, right? Check this out and let me know if this makes sense for you right now. Like, that's it. Send your link, but just don't overdo it.
Totally. Yeah, I fully agree. And the spam filter thing is a really good insight, actually, because I think a lot of people get worried about that. Like I saw another question in the chat that was like, hey, should I be using Spintax? But like if there's no spam filter, Spintax isn't necessarily required because all Spintax does is help avoid spam filters in email, right? So anyway, definitely an interesting thought. Marta just asked me really quickly if I could repeat the tools baseline, so I'll go over that again. As a quick self-plug, hate to do it, but I'm planning on publishing like a giant best tools in every category list on like my business's website. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'll probably post about it, but I'm sure you can imagine what the number one LinkedIn sequencer is going to be. But in short, I'll give you the rundown. One more time. So reliable lead source is going to vary on your ICP, so I can't really give you one there. For enrichment, just use Clay. For personalization, just use Clay. It's just an aggregation of all of those tools in one, so you might as well use that. La Growth Machine for multi-channel, HeyReach for LinkedIn, and Smart Lead for email. And we'll send a recording out to this if you haven't gotten that part down. Let's see.
Patrick, in my opinion, while you're looking throughout the chats, here is one of the use cases that we are building. Unfortunately, I cannot share this publicly, but I will share the Clay table later. The best source is your client's CRM close loss deals, right? Because those are the people who actually are fully aware of the product, fully aware of your client, fully aware of you. So now what you need to do is just pick up the data from HubSpot or from whatever CRM it is, just use your note taker if there is something applicable in place, but that's a whole different thing, and reach it with Clay, find out their LinkedIn URL, send them to HeyReach for a personalized LinkedIn campaign. And it doesn't have to be anything specific, right? It can really be, hey, we haven't chatted in a while. That's all you need, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because we actually just started a campaign for one of our clients doing that exact same thing. We got all of their form fills that ended up being closed loss deals and did like a re-engagement campaign with them, and it is doing very well. Like we were so pumped about it. So that might be like besides like just a generic cold campaign, which is like usually the first thing we run for any of our clients to get our messaging down. After that, it's probably going to be the next one, right? Because it's a no-brainer. Like they're as warm, even if they're like cold in the sense that you lost them eventually. Like if they just never responded to you or something, it's so easy to follow up, and it's been working quite well. So
we took it one step ahead, and we said, why are we using a note taker? Right? We have the full transcript, we have the whole conversation and everything. How are we going to leverage this in our outbound campaigns? So what we've did is now we have the contact, but now we also know what everything was talked about on that meeting. And then we compose that into an outbound sequence that can be used on LinkedIn or email, regardless, right? So then, I mean, it's a crazy use case, and I'm happy to share it with everyone because that's a great starting point for anyone, really.
Yeah, another great one that I've been starting to do for some of my clients is, and this works especially well with HeyReach, is any sort of LinkedIn engagement campaigns, like being able to scrape or gather data, and I can't say how, but you can figure it out, about LinkedIn likers or commenters or followers for either your pages or competitors' pages. Like that, obviously, it's if it's your page, it's a no-brainer because they're warm leads and they're aware of you and your content. We've even been running one on our competitors, like engagers and commenters and likers and stuff too. So if you have a competitor that very obviously sucks and you are obviously a better solution to them, and you can make that clear in an email, also another pretty solid one to run, I found. I'm hoping our client will allow us to make a video on that campaign once it's fully run itself out, because it's been an interesting one for sure. Let's see. Are you planning on somebody asked if you're ever planning on doing email native integration tools. I'm assuming you guys are just sticking with LinkedIn though, right? I mean, it seems to be the future. So
yeah, for now we are focused on LinkedIn solely, but hopefully in the future you'll be able to combine your favorite email outreach tool with our LinkedIn sequence into one thing. Like for example, send a connection request, done. Send email via SmartLead or send email via Instantly. Then do this and that. So pretty much that's the direction we are gonna go in, like integrations and putting everything into one place, but not building it in-house because there are already some tools who are doing it. At least this is kind of like our short-term roadmap. The thing I mentioned with the integrations previously, Patrick.
Yeah, for sure.
Historically speaking, every time a platform which was doing great email, they started adding LinkedIn, they didn't do a great job on LinkedIn, and vice versa. Everyone who was doing great job on LinkedIn, when they added email, like they're not doing great job there as well. So, I mean, maybe we are just short-sighted, maybe we are visionary on this, but I believe that every platform should stick to what they're doing the best. So if it's LinkedIn, that stick to LinkedIn and integrate with the people who are doing email at their best. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree. Also, somebody asked, and I know there's been like a little bit of a conversation about this in the chat, but about doing voice messages. I'm gonna put in my hat or I don't know. I'm gonna put my 2 cents in and say you guys should definitely add it, because I've heard from everybody who's been doing it, as well as we're integrating in some of our campaigns right now, that voice messaging is doing quite well. Like the responses are pretty high. I know that there are some tools out there that do, like, you can AI generate just the first name, right? So because you don't want to AI generate a full voice message yet. Hopefully it gets there soon, but it's not yet. But I've seen some tools do it pretty successfully with at least the first name thing. So anyway,
right. We were actually thinking about this, and some people requested it. And always, like when we are building a feature, I always want it to be super useful. And we started by asking them like, okay, what are your results with the voice notes? And the most frequent reply we were getting was like, I don't know, people say it works, so we should use it. So we were kind of like, let's see how it works. Let's see, some results of people who have really good results with the voice notes. And if it makes sense, we're going to put it into a product. I've seen, more and more people asking it. It's one of the most requested features that we have right now. We've been discussing this, and probably at around Q4, we'll start, working on these things.
I mean, definitely we have to adapt to the way people are communicating over the chat boxes. So like, for instance, how many voice notes have you sent compared to how many textual messages have you sent on your WhatsApp? The same goes for LinkedIn, right? That's where the future is heading in the communication. I guess all of us are becoming a little bit lazy when it comes to typing out messages, and it's just easy to hit that mic and just say anything that you gotta say. So nevertheless, it's a content placement, definitely on the roadmap. We have to do it. That it's like a matter of time.
yeah, I also just like, I don't know if I've ever gotten a LinkedIn voice message that I haven't listened to at the very least. Like it's always so enticing because you can't just like skim it over. Like I'm just like, what does this person have to say? Like they're sending me a whole voice message. Like either they're in a rush and like this is the only way they can communicate with me, or it's like something so important that they just couldn't type it to me. So anyway, it entices me enough to where I think you should get at it. It's the cool thing about these webinars. It's because we can just yell at the founders of all these techs until they add the features that we want. So love that.
100% open rate. Yeah, I guess you.
Yeah, great open rates at the very least. So yeah, I mean, I've just never gotten one and been like, I'm not gonna listen to that. Like, so anyway, And then somebody said, could you help me a little bit more about Clay and HeyReach? Where can I learn more? I'll kind of give you a high level as to why Clay and HeyReach are so complementary and what makes them so effective. In short, Clay is just a really powerful, open enrichment and personalization tool. And so, of course, HeyReach is an incredible way to actually sequence the message, send them, schedule them, do reactions, create the flow. Clay is sending the data that allows you to create more personalized messages for that, in short. So it's just a platform that aggregates all of the data providers that are out there into one. And so you can find really niche data on people or companies. Then you can use that data to get AI to write personalized snippets or messages that you can then send to HeyReach. And so their compatibility in this is pretty much in the sense that you're able to send more personalized messages than you would generally be able to with any other tool. And of course, the integration is just really smooth as well. So that's always a plus. Somebody says, is there a way today to integrate Clay for enrichment and HeyReach for LinkedIn automation, then add HeyGen for personalized video at scale? Yeah, so you'd want to integrate HeyGen with Clay. So instead of connecting it directly to HeyReach, which I'm sure will be a thing soon due to the amount of insane integrations you guys are adding. But for the time being, you can just use the HeyGen API connected to Clay. And you quite literally just said that, Nikola. Awesome. I'm just read his response. It's the exact same thing I was going to say. Kind of off topic. What's the trick to changing your name from Nikola to Nick on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I just moved to SF like a month ago, and when you're going with Eastern European name and meeting people, being like Nikola is kind of like hard to pronounce, and I was just Nick, and people kind of like, hey, Nick, and while I'm here in SF, I just changed it to Nick, and it's easier for networking with people. But nice question, thank you.
Yeah, I think Nikola. If you can't pronounce that name, that's on you. Like Ilya is a different situation. I'm not gonna lie, I had a hard time, right? Like maybe but like. I don't know. Come on, you could. I get it, but at the same time, don't sell your identity to the drones and SF, man. All right. Any other questions from anybody else before we wrap this thing up? Are there any tricks to using Clay for standardizing titles or other data? Yes, in short. It's amazing for that. You can use Clay has free features for normalizing company names as well as domains. You can also just use OpenAI to do it. We do it for literally every campaign we run. Like that's why Clay is so integral to all of our workflows, because there's just like company names from LinkedIn. If you just send them, like they're almost immediately just a dead giveaway that you're using automation if you don't normalize the company names, right? So highly recommend doing so. Let's see. Can I cancel connection requests? Nikola, have you answered that? I thought I saw this already before. Can you cancel a connection request after a month or so by using HeyReach? I'm kind of confused as to what the
Ilya, do we have that? Basically,
the withdrawal, right?
Yeah.
So like you should not have that many connection requests pending, and there's like a withdrawal has to happen. Nevertheless, we just pulled that away for the moment, just because like people are trying to re-engage with the same audience, and they cannot do it because LinkedIn will not allow you to send another connection request if you withdraw it before 21 days. So now we are building out a system that actually notifies you like you cannot message these people because you just withdrawn a connection request. If we pull that in our backlog just for a quick rework, and we will have that live in probably the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, we had it and we pulled it out like a month ago. The guys are reworking it, and we're gonna push better version for doing it because of the problems that Ilya mentioned.
Awesome. I've just remembered before we run out on time, we have that giveaway announcement we have to talk about. Nikola, I'm gonna let you take this, but very exciting stuff. So
sure. Okay, guys. So I have an interesting surprise for all of you. Clay and HeyReach decided to run a challenge for you. It's gonna be a 14-day challenge where for the most creative workflow that integrates both HeyReach and Clay into the workflow, that's gonna be shared on LinkedIn, and you're gonna tag Clay and HeyReach. We're giving 2 really, really big prizes. The first one is we are giving a free lifetime subscription to the agency plan of HeyReach. That means like for free for your lifetime, you can use our agency plan and run and manage and automate up to 50 LinkedIn senders on it. And the second thing is Clay was super generous with this thing. They're offering 100,000 Clay credits, again, given to the most craziest, to the most creative workflow built out there. The judge for this is going to be Patrick, of course. And the challenge starts today. They're like 14 days. We are running with LinkedIn posts to announce that thing after the webinar. So yeah, expecting your amazing ideas, share them on LinkedIn, record a quick Loom explaining why you created that thing, showcasing the results and all of those things. And yeah, super pumped to see all of your amazing ideas here, all of your creativeness, and yeah, see you on the see you after 14 days.
Yeah.
And by the
Also,
way, go on. Sorry to cut you off. Just want to clarify thing. We were not into this to get greedy, right? So we offered, right? Here is like 30 days of usage with 5 LinkedIn accounts to do it for free. Like it doesn't have to cost money. It's just a challenge. It has to be proactive. It has to be fun. Like we are not in this for the money. We are just want to see creative people building amazing use cases that's replicatable across board. So that's why this is all about.
yeah, by the way, just for context, with how much we're just giving away right now, like 100,000 clay credits, I think costs like $1,500 at least, like in clay. And so there's that. Plus, you can't even really put a value on the HeyReach lifetime thing because it's for life. And so like it's thousands of dollars of giveaways just to create a good flow. So I mean, obviously you have to create something really great, but even if you don't win, which hopefully you do, you're going to learn an insane amount probably just building out these flows themselves. So it's kind of great incentive to just, if you're interested in learning about HeyReach and Clay, go build something fun.
Oh yeah, and shout out to Peter over here. Like that dude was so behind the idea. He so loved it and he was so generous to say, okay, so let's do it. That's pretty much it. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, of course. We'll follow up with details in our LinkedIn, Slack, and follow-up email. In the details and emails, you'll get the recording. You'll get details about this post challenge, as well as sign-up links with these like 30-day free. And for Clay, it'll be new paying signups. We'll get 3,000 credits off the start as well. So stay on the lookout for those. Anything else?
Just giving away free money over here, you know.
To one lucky winner.
Awesome. That's all I've got. You guys have anything else, HeyReach team?
No, I just want to thank to everyone who joined this webinar. Great questions, great interaction. Just love it. Peter, Patrick, you guys are doing amazing. As always, we're just glad to be part of the Clay family. That's all.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys hopping on. And I can say from experience, it's an incredible tool, and I plan on continuing using it because it's kind of just next level. It's really the best one out there. So appreciate it, guys. Have a good one, everybody. Go make creative clay flows, win a bunch of money. And well, I guess money worth of tech, but low-key more valuable than money because of how much you can make from using it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.